Okay, well, the motivation for the talk is basically from work, because we work on a very high level these days, and I feel that a lot of developers don't really understand either the hardware or even the Java virtual machine that they base all their software upon. And I see that there's a lot of misunderstanding of what works on a Java virtual machine, how you should code for the Java virtual machine, and this talk is basically a collection of basic guidelines of how the Java virtual machine processes a Java program and how it makes it fast, such that people get a general overview, and the JVM is a little demystified by that.
Points. I mean, how do you go about looking at performance for the JVM?
So, I mean, there's of course profiling tools that can help you with that, but it's more like you can do little things that can have big impacts on a JVM. The Java virtual machine is based a lot on heuristics, so it looks into your program, how it's run at runtime, and then it tries to build a profile to make your program fast. And if you do strange things on a JVM, then this can sometimes have big effects. And unfortunately, the Java virtual machine is now 21 years old, or not the hotspot, but Java itself, and there's a lot of advice still out there from old versions of the JVM that people still apply. And in today's environments, this doesn't necessarily help, often even the contrary. And in order to basically give people a guideline of what actually works and why this works, I made this talk.
So how do you know that your software, or you're losing performance? You're not like optimized for a good performance on the JVM?
Well, worst case, you see it in your production systems because they're slow for some reason, and then it can just be that there's some code segment that is particularly slow. For some optimization, maybe even you have applied, or some framework you have in between. And to be honest, most of the times it's not the Java virtual machine. The JVM works quite fine. Most of the times it's the database. But those few times where it's not the database, people typically do not know where to look and how to look. And that's why this is an important skill still. And also in the future, if you look into what's happening on a JVM, you have now Graal, which is a Java implemented JIT compiler. That's still happening a lot, and these things will change. So it's good to know what's happening in JVM, because maybe someday you'll update, there's some internal change which will affect your software, and then it's good to know how to debug these things.
Right. So is it more critical when you have large applications? I mean, when should you worry really about it?
It's often, the larger an application it is, it's often like these web server monoliths, and ironically it's not so important there. It's often more important if you have these like streaming frameworks, when you have a large quantity of data that you want to process. You get like a stream of data in, and you have to send it further as quickly as possible, which might be something like Spark or some other framework. And in these frameworks, the processor is very busy most of the times, and then it's very beneficial to look into where the JVM spends the most amount of time. And I had these cases where you have like you parse a lot of big files and you need to extract data from them, and then suddenly you find there's one regex that consumes 90% of the time this program is running, and then you remove this one, and you break your runtime down to 10% of what you had before, and then sometimes these small changes can have big impacts.
So, and do you use like a particular tool to moderate the applications? I mean, something that you used a lot and that you really like? Yeah,
so for development, I tend to use Flight Recorder a lot, and mission control. For production, you have a bunch of commercial APM solutions, but you can, of course, also use Flight Recorder. Now that it's open sourced and without a license, this might actually be an option. People mostly like to go for free alternatives, right?
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot of great tools out there. I'm trying to avoid mentioning names because they're all pretty good.
Okay.
Flight Recorder in particular is nice because it's bundled with Oracle JDK and now OpenJDK since Java 9 as well. Cool.
Anything else you want to share that about your talk? I mean, it's going to. So when is your talk? It's today,
It's on Friday, the last slot.
Okay.
If you're already interested in this topic, you probably won't learn too much. This is really a talk that I made based on the experience of explaining this over and over again to colleagues. So now I have videos out, so I can tell them, watch that video. That's basically what I want to tell you.
That's excellent.
So I saved some time there. But it's really an introduction. I don't show machine code. I don't even show Java bytecode. Okay. I want to show people, this is your Java program, and in some way, this is how the JVM will transform this program at runtime. It will look at these particular things and base its performance optimizations on these metrics that it collects from your program.
Cool. Well, and it will be recorded, so everybody can actually see it live on Friday or afterwards, right, on YouTube.
I hope so, yes.
Thank you, Raphael.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.